Good evening, metaphysicians, psychics, tarot readers, wizards and witches, and wizards and sorceresses. You are my very favorite people on the planet. And my name is James Spencer. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I am the founder of Spencer Artist Development, located in Long Beach, California, where I am specifically a professional acting, voiceover, music, modeling, and metaphysical coach that prepares my students for careers in the arts. I have been doing that for over 30 years, and I'm also professor for testing for the University of West London for their drama and their music program. And I am also the founder of Intuitive Wholeness, where I myself am a clinical hypnotherapist specializing in working with clients in trauma as well as past life regression. And I also offer psychic readings, tarot readings, tea leaf readings, and I do certification courses quarterly, specifically in the tarot. For those who are interested, my tarot divination certification course usually runs about 9 hours. It is private one-on-one, which I prefer to classes because I feel I can really work with my students on having them develop their own intuitive style of readings. And I can do that either at my home studio here in Long Beach, or I also do online to U.S. residents, students 15 and an older. I am super delighted today and emotional to be able to talk about a important project I've been working on for 20 years, which is my Spencer Tarot deck, which I had just brought to fruition. In my Spencer Tarot deck, I wanted to evoke the mood of Gothic Victorian England, and I specifically went for a tintype feel where the characters look like they're kind of stepping out of the frame. And I modeled my Spencer Tarot off the Thoth deck of Aleister Crowley with artwork by Lady Frida Harris. I feel the Thoth deck is the number one deck for getting the most accurate readings, and I have used the Thoth deck for over 30 years. It is a cross-cultural deck using aspectology, numerology, astrology, symbolism from the Kabbalah, sacred geometry, and other aspects of the occult to really give very in-depth readings. And my goal with mine is to do a similar thing, but to focus on my favorite period in history, which is, again, Gothic Victorian era, and to create a style of tarot cards that are perfect atmospheric cards also for those people who enjoy thunder and lightning and having tea late at night and reading cards for people. And so it's a little bit more of a theatrical deck in my opinion, but I feel my deck gives very accurate readings. So we will be looking in this first video on me discussing the major Arcana cards and going in depth on each card. And for those who are using any tarot deck, that's fine. This video is still very useful for you to think about symbolism and meanings of cards. In my opinion, which is what Aleister Crowley believed, is the cards are a layer upon layer of not only human behavior, but karma release. And that's what makes them powerful. Where some decks will just tell you what's happening, this gets to the deeper root of what's happening and helps people make lifelong, lasting changes in their lives towards spiritual empowerment and making decisions for themselves that bring their life into truly their greatest desires. And I feel that my deck does that. and I'm very delighted to share that with you today. So let's get started. In creating the cover and style for the Spencer Tarot deck, I decided I wanted to go with square cut over the typical tarot card size. The reasoning for that is I tend to do 15 card thorough readings, and I found that square creates a much cleaner look on a table and it's just easier to maneuver. So I went with that. And for my cover, I wanted to go for sort of a Gothic Victorian embossed look. So the cover of my tarot deck has a S in silver with roses on sort of an embossed rose-colored leather. And the S of my name, Spencer, actually comes from ancient French Gaul despensier, which actually does mean silver. And very interestingly, my father's mother's maiden name is Sterling, and as in sterling silver. So I thought, yes, I like this idea of going with silver. I've always preferred silver over gold myself too, and I've always had a passion for roses, which is my favorite flower, and I always have roses in my home Victorian parlor on any given day. And another aspect of this deck was I am passionate about tea time. And my home has, if you can believe it, over a pantry with over 500 different loose leaf teas. I have beautiful carnival glass teacups and a tea cart, and I enjoy the intimacy of getting together with my closest extended family, who are also high level beings of metaphysics, and getting together for tea and scones and reading tarot. So this deck is, in addition, meant to be specifically a tarot deck to be used over tea. And that's sort of a unique thing. I don't think there's actually ever been someone who's created a tarot deck specifically for tarot and tea, with a Gothic Victorian feel. So I think that's what makes mine's a little bit unique. And so forth. And anyway, I really like the way they came out, and I like the color scheme and so forth. So I hope you do too. Okay, let's move on to talking about what the major arcana cards are, and then I will be introducing each card and talking a little bit about them. The Spencer Tarot deck, created by James Spencer in 2024 using AI art software. We are looking now at the major arcana cards. There are 22 cards, and they are numbered 0 to 21. And they represent universal laws and principles of mankind, as well as aspects that people tend to play out in their lifetime. These 22 principles are lessons that we all need to learn in life. And each card that we're going to look at has positive aspects that can be realized by your client or the person you're reading for, as well as negative aspects. And so we'll be looking at all the symbols on the cards and giving you clues on how to read cards in a spread. Now, again, no matter what tarot deck you're using, and there are differences, of course, in each deck, but most decks, the major arcana will have similar principles. So everything I am telling you about the major arcana cards, you can apply to the Thoth deck or the Rider-Waite or any deck you choose to learn. So this is a good review of cards and symbols. But sometimes looking at another artist's symbols can help you expand your own awareness of whatever deck you're using. So this is why in my home I have over 500 different tarot decks. And I have my favorites, of course, and some I don't like as well. But I have learned from every deck. Though, of course, for the best readings, again, my favorite deck has always been the Thoth deck, and I modeled imagery and symbolism from the Thoth deck to my own deck. So let's take a look now at the major arcana cards of the Spencer Tarot. Before showing you the major arcana cards, I did want to talk about my thoughts on my deck, the Spencer Tarot deck. It was very important to me in my deck that I include cross-cultural references and make this deck accessible to people of all ages, all ethnicities, all sexual orientations, and a celebration of both the divine masculine and the divine feminine. I purposely have had some bad experiences in the Christian church growing up, even though I served as a music minister for many years. And I wanted to lean away from Christian imagery, even though Aleister Crowley does use Christian imagery in his deck, and stay more with images of metaphysics, images that are Wiccan, and images that evoke the mood of the mystery schools of the Gothic Victorian era in England. This deck celebrates life, and this deck celebrates sensuality. I didn't want to do an overly explicit sexual deck, but I did want to bring some sensual and sexual imagery into this deck because I feel it's often left out. And I feel as humans, that's part of our nature, and we shouldn't repress that. So I will be talking about each card and their personal relationship to myself, as well as, of course, the Thoth deck and just the major arcana in general. So let's get started. With the major arcana cards, let's start with the first one, 0, the Fool, and one of my favorites that is often misunderstood. First of all, the number 0 is nothingness. That's what the number represents. It means new potential, new birth, opportunities, giving birth to new ideas, trying something new. These are themes of the Fool. If you look at my Fool, which I really love, he's sort of this kind of creepy sideshow clown, kind of smiling, slightly mischievous, holding a balloon and walking through this surreal freak show, creep show kind of universe. And he's walking fearlessly. He's like, I don't give a fuck what people think of me, how I look, or what's happening. It's being in complete courage. And that's another theme of the Fool. It's getting out of fear and reframing your outlook of anything's possible. I can turn my life around. And I don't have to take life so seriously. And that's another theme of the Fool. Let's just be mischievous and have fun and be, at times honor both that part of our nature which is childlike and innocent, and that part of our nature that's a little dark and a little creepy. It's okay to be both. It's okay to understand that there really isn't any duality. We are good, we are bad, we are light, we are dark, we are evil, we are spiritual. We have all these different aspects of ourselves. And the Fool is in his truth. I'm going to be who I am. I don't care if you like me or not. I'm just going to have fun and be me. And the Fool is a great card, too, for those people that are struggling with just being themselves. And this is a part of the card that often gets, not looked, is maybe there's someone out there that has been told by society or by their church that they aren't lovable. Or maybe someone has told them, your talents don't matter, you're stupid, things like this. And this is rephrasing this to, I am fearless. I am fun. I am living my passion. I'm doing what I want. And I'm just going to say it and fuck the rest of the world. I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's very powerful because once we are true to ourselves and we're living from our truth, not a truth that someone has placed onto us by family, ancestral karma, churches, religion, society, ethnicity, we fall into these traps of living for other people and not living for ourselves. And the Fool represents that freedom to be who you are, which is why I love the Fool. It's interesting because as a kid, I wasn't really into circuses and clowns, but I was always attracted to the freak show. And actually, about 10 years ago, there is the Venice Beach Freak Show. And I actually became friends with some of the artists there that really opened my eyes to people living their truth, being who they want to be, honoring their light and their dark. And it really changed my life. And so my heart goes out to all my friends at the Venice Beach Freak Show that unfortunately closed, but they did move to Las Vegas for a while. And for anybody who is just going to honor being different and being yourself. And that was something I admit that I struggled with as a child. I came from a very strict Christian family. I was the number one son. I was told you must get married, you must have children, you must live a certain way. And I knew that I was a genius and I knew I was different. And I really struggled with trying to make everybody happy and living for other people. And I meditated quite a bit on this card. And that was part of my own personal liberation of making peace with my past, but also living in my truth. And that's why this card's very special to me. I hope it is to you. But if you are working with this card, or maybe you have a client that continues to get this card, it's not just about, again, courage, but it's also about new potentials. It's about owning who you are. It's about freedom. It's about living fearlessly. It's about being proud of yourself. So this card has many different aspects. And I think if you just study the artwork a little bit and just meditate, sometimes I'll just sit with these cards and like I'm looking at a window. That's why, another reason why, if you see a lot of my cards, they'll have these beautiful silver Victorian frames around them. And to me, that makes it personal. It's like they're part of my family album. And I pull that out and I look at that and I feel like, okay, there's that part of me that is the Fool. And that's a positive thing. It's about I am that I am, and I don't care what other people think about me. And my life is unlimited to anything I want to create, and I can let go of things that are not serving me and come into the truth of what I want to create. Okay, fantastic. Let's move on. Another favorite card that is one of my archetypes is number 1, the Magician. And anyone who knows me knows that I am a serious Harry Potter nerd. I admit it. I love Harry Potter. I have been collecting Harry Potter memorabilia for over 20 years. My house is Ravenclaw, and I am a proud Ravenclaw, which are the studious, intellectual, creative types that are introverts, and that is very me. And even my license plate says Professor of Hogwarts, Ravenclaw, and my door says Wizards allowed, no muggles. And I live my life by that, meaning we have a choice. We can choose to see ourselves as powerful psychic wizards that can attract everything we need in our life, or we can live as victim muggles. And that is one of the underlining thoughts in my magician card. What do you choose to be? Do you choose to be a powerful magician, dressed beautifully and elegant, enjoying life, or do you choose to be a victim? My magician is dressed in beautiful, luxurious Victorian clothes, and he is holding candles, and there's orbs around him as he walks through Victorian London. There is a beautiful silvery moon behind him, and all the stars of the planets are lined up. And he is always in the right place at the right time. The magician represents your ability to communicate effectively. And that is not just verbal communication, but that could be written and that could be through any form of art. We communicate. We can communicate through music, through singing, through playing an instrument, through dance, through modeling, through fashion, through visual art, through knitting, creative pursuits. There's a lot of ways for us to communicate. And the lesson of the magician is to be yourself in how you choose to communicate, but to communicate from your truth, not what society wants you to be or what you feel you need to do to impress others. That was a lesson in my life, coming from a musical family with a lot of competition, having a mother who was a noted opera singer and a father who was a country western performer. And as a child, I was competing in international piano competitions. There was this need to impress. And I felt in my family sometimes that I only received love when I was getting straight A's or impressing. And my lesson was to learn to just let go of having to impress others. Let me just be myself and not have to impress. And that's part of the magician card. Like a true magician doesn't need to tell people they're a magician. You just know by their energy. And that is a great thing to be in your truth and power, but not needing to manipulate others to get what you want and not needing to impress others. So this magician on my card is a beautifully dressed man. You can tell he's successful. You can tell he's wise and intelligent, but he's just doing his own thing. Notice there's nobody else in the picture. He's like, I'm just being, I'm just allowing and shining my light on the world. And if the right people find me, that's great. And if they don't find me, that's okay too. And there's no judgment. If someone wants to be in their misery and be in their victimhood, be in their lack consciousness, that's their choice. But the magician communicates and leads by example. The magician is a teacher to those who want to learn and are willing to put the time in. But if they don't, the magician's not going to get in a knot or upset if someone doesn't follow him. He's like, okay, you're not the right energy for me. And he walks through this city enjoying life, and everything he needs manifests in front of him. He is unlimitedly abundant, he is in radiant health, and this is due to his ability to communicate his truth and do that from a place of honesty. So the magician to me is a very spiritual, mature card, and which is why I like this card. And again, as a teacher and metaphysician, it's a card I love. I connect to wizard energy. I call myself a wizard. As a teacher, I tell all my students, whether they are musicians or actors or voiceover artists, hey, I'm a wizard. You're studying under me. You're a wizard or a witch too. You're powerful. You can do anything. And I don't have time for muggles. So if you're a muggle, don't even listen to this. I'll move on because I don't want you in my life. Okay. So, but if you are willing to grow and learn and to look at things differently, this might be the video for you in how you look at the cards. As a very young child, all the way to the present, I have always had a connection, fascination with ancient Egypt. And also, I've had many past lives in ancient Egypt. And I feel that this card is very special to me. My maternal side, my grandmother was an Egyptologist, and had doctorates in the 1920s in English literature and in writing. She wrote scripts for Hollywood, and she did a lot of traveling, and she studied metaphysics. So my grandmother studied tarot. She was into Egyptian mythology and magic, and she basically gave that to my mom. So my mother also shares this great love. My mother is the high priestess. I see her as that. My mother was always connected with Isis energy, and my mother looks identical to the bust of Queen Nefertiti. As a child, we had a library room where my mom had beautiful leather bound novels in cases and a writing desk with a Tiffany lamp and a bust of Queen Nefertiti. And everybody just went, oh, that's mom, So kind of interesting. And so, if you think about the high priestess, there are several words that are connected with this card. Is the independent self-knower. The high priestess is introverted into herself. She is the receiver. Divine feminine is not about doing, but just allowing, about receiving. And my mother was great at this. And in addition, the high priestess is about beautification, about balance, about self discipline, about making decisions for your life to keep you looking radiant your whole life. Not making smart decisions. My mother is still with us, and I'm just amazed. She is 92 years old and has, she's gone her whole life without really drinking alcohol, never smoking. She used to do 100 laps in the pool. She always was dressed fashionably. She had 6 children and still was a size 1. I don't know how she did it, but little petite Spanish woman. And these are aspects of the high priestess. So in the card that I created, we see the queen sitting on her throne, the Egyptian, Cleopatra. But there's aspects of this that are very much based on my mom. My mom is a petite woman. Some of the shape of the face is very much my mom, and the holding of the candle too is like my light's quiet. I don't need a giant moon behind me. I'm just quietly shining. And that's the introvert. And so she still is radiant, but she doesn't have to let people say, look at me. It's much more quiet behind the scenes. And that's parts of the high priestess as well. High priestess is about using your intuition and insights, deep self-knowing, whether you're male or female, and allowing is, can you listen to your higher self and get the answers without struggling? And while you do that, could you make decisions for yourself that are in alignment to healing? Choose organic, vegan, plant-based foods over eating processed sugar. Choose exercise and getting into nature over, smoking a cigarette. We have choices. And this is the purification card of Isis. There's Isis energy, the divine feminine. And to me, this is an important card in my life because I've always felt connected to the divine feminine, and I am very much a quiet doer, if that makes sense. And I feel that this card is for those introverts as well. But anybody, regardless of where you are, can grow from using this card. The main idea is to be the independent self-knower, listen to your intuition and insights, and choose wisely in your disciplines of things you do to stay healthy and to align yourself with being a truly spiritually pure person. In creating the number 3 card, the Empress, I was reminiscing on late Victorian period, and with the World's Fair that happened in Paris, there was a influx of Asian culture. And if you look at that time period, you had of the French Impressionists, you had painters like Monet painting water lilies. You had the Art Nouveau movement that developed, borrowed heavily from Asian exoticism. And I, as an opera singer, was also reminiscing on Puccini's last opera, Turandot, which is about a Chinese empress. And all that imagery was like, this feels right for me with the Gothic Victorian deck I'm doing. So I decided to show a beautiful, radiant Chinese empress. And the Empress card is the nurturer, comforter of her people. She's the beautifier. So she's similar to the High Priestess, but the difference between the High Priestess and the Empress is the Empress is in service. So she's the mother that is service oriented, doing for her children. And she's Mother Gaia. So the idea of this card is using your creativity and your love and your creative talents and sharing them with the world. And this is the divine feminine. And so for men, to me, this also means being in touch with that softer motherly nature. And we all have that. So this could be mean many things and many different things for different people. This could mean, like, if I'm a man, maybe I'm going to take the time in my home environment to really have a luxurious, beautiful home. I'm going to bring in, beautiful fabrics and things that make me comfortable. I'm going to bring in plants and flowers and things like that. And of course, women can do that too, but men are sometimes not connected to their underlining divine feminine. This could be fashion, this could be grooming, like taking the time to get a nice haircut. These things fall under the Empress. And also sharing any gifts that we have in the arts with others. So this might be like, if you're a singer, join a choir. If you're a musician, performing for others or joining groups. Maybe it's about just being surrounded by artistic things. This could also be getting into nature and just enjoying the beauty of the earth. And also, this is about discrimination as well, but positive discrimination. What do you choose to leave in to have in your life? Are you choosing people in your life that support your goals and uplift you? Or are you choosing crazy makers that pull you down? So if you notice the face on the Empress, she's sizing you up. She's looking you down like, are you someone that is worthy to be in my life? Or if not, you're out of my life. You're not my subject. And I love that about the Empress, because that's something that's very important. A lot of people say, I don't have time to go out to the beach and relax. I have to work. Or I don't have time to take a walk in nature. I'm too busy. And these are victim excuses to not enjoy the beauty of life. How many people are workaholics? How many people allow their homes to become hoarders' nests of disgust? How many people truly surround themselves with beauty? How many allow themselves luxury? Are you in abundance consciousness or lack consciousness? Do you say to yourself, I deserve the very best, and it manifests? Your home is a reflection of who you are. So just look around you. Do you live in a beautiful place, or do you live in squalor? It's your choice. And that's what this card talks about too. That even if you are coming from a place of lack, you can start making small shifts. It could be the simple thing of, I'm just going to clear out clutter today. I'm going to vacuum my carpet. Little things. It's about beautification. How about, like, in your person? Are you complaining about being overweight or not looking your best? What could you do today? Could you make better food choices? Could you eat healthy organic foods that nourish your body instead of running to McDonald's? Could you put on beautiful clothes that make you look great in colors that are good for your skin tone? Or are you just putting on some drawstrings, sweats that have food all over them? You know, you have choices. So the Empress is about that. It's about beautification, comforting, being motherly, and being a mother to your inner self as well. Okay, she represents Venus too. She represents beauty. She represents strong leadership abilities to take action when needed. And again, the most important, discrimination. It's your choice. What are you letting into your life? Number 4, the Emperor. In creating the Emperor card, I thought about the Russian Revolution and I wanted a really strong, powerful looking emperor from that period, and so I chose a czar. What's interesting about the emperor is while the empress is the divine feminine, the emperor is the divine masculine. So the emperor represents the person who's the pioneer. They're the builder, they're the doer, they're the ones taking action. They're visionary, but they're creating strong foundations through doing. They're the father protector. They're the father. Okay, so when people pull this card, it could deal with father issues, just like when people pull the Empress card, it might be mother issues. This is the divine masculine. This is someone who has strong leadership abilities and is very gifted. They also tend to be great communicators. They could also be artists. This is about people that are successful in their careers. They're moving forward. And I'm going to say that a lot of my dad is in this card. And even though sometimes my dad and I didn't see eye to eye on things, one thing I really admire about my dad, who, by the way, was kind of stern like this guy with red hair and a beard, and kind of a strong guy. But my dad came from almost nothing in Key West, Florida during the Depression, and was the only one of his siblings to use his talents to get out of that situation. My dad learned how to play many instruments and become a phenomenal singer, worked his way all the way up to the Grand Ole Opry as a performer in the late 40s and 50s, saved that money to go to the University of Florida in Gainesville to become a aeronautical engineer. Then he worked his way up to the head of the Delta Space Launch Program for NASA, turning himself into a multimillionaire. He married the love of his life. He was married to my mom for 63 years, had 6 children and like 14 grandchildren, and was always the rock, like always the patriarch. And though, like I said, sometimes we didn't see eye to eye, I have such respect for what he created in his life. He was an incredible father figure in what he was able to do, and it's just amazing. And I feel that my dad embodied the emperor, and that to me is amazing. And I feel very blessed in that the characteristics that I share with my dad is the ability to be fiercely independent, an entrepreneur that owns my own business, and I don't take shit from people, basically, and my dad's the same way. So I feel just that kind of ability to be a leader. I feel like even though I chose not to have biological children, my children are my students, and I've had the pleasure of teaching over 2,000 students in my lifetime, and many of them have gone on to do incredible things in the arts. I have alumni students on Broadway. I have alumni students in movies. I have voiceover students that are with Disney. I have students that are, noted models, in New York and LA. I feel very blessed. But that's also, I feel, a choice. Now, of course, it helps to have a role model. And I think I learned that entrepreneurship and leadership ability and being a success for my dad. And I look at all my siblings, and yes, my dad was a very strict disciplinarian. My dad was very hard on us, but we were kids that practiced the piano 3 hours a day. I won international piano competition. I was working at 14, making a living, and by the time I was 16, I was already performing all over the U.S. and successful, and all my siblings were too. And I feel that comes from that strong emperor. So if you happen to have someone like that in your life, it's a powerful card. And if you don't, you can draw from this card. A lot of people, especially nowadays in the age of instant gratification and entitlement and social media, a lot of youngsters this day don't have this entrepreneurial drive that my generation had as a Gen X of the 80s. We're in a different time period now. And for those that are choosing to really make their dreams come to fruition, this is a great card to pick. What's fascinating is I read for a lot of my students from time to time, and a lot of younger kids, and this card comes up a lot with people 20 and under. Like, they need this card. They need to be entrepreneurial. They need to take a leadership role in their life, and they're not. They're on social media. They're, complaining. I'm not saying all people do this, but this is sort of something I'm seeing of the world right now. And that's why I love this card. I think it's a powerful card. He looks a little scary, and that's the whole point. He's if you look at the Emperor, he's sitting on his throne and he's watching you. Like, don't mess with me. He's predatorial. Like, don't mess with my people. I will take you down. And I love that. And that's definitely my dad. My dad was a stubborn Taurus, triple Taurus. You don't mess with him. And but powerful and successful. And I love that about this card. So thank you, Dad. One of my most important archetypes, and a card I highly connect to, is the Hierophant. The Hierophant is the spiritual teacher. It's someone that is people look to in the community, and I feel that's me. I'm a teacher coach, I am a counselor, I'm a consultant, and the role of this card is to inspire others by your spiritual awareness. So this card also represents service. It's helping your community, helping your family. This card could be, it's a time for you to get into learning. So usually when people pull this card, it's like higher education or learning a craft or going back to school. So it deals very much with learning. It also can deal with resolving family issues. And it's also a card of breakthrough. Usually, like when someone pulls this card, it's like you have a spiritual epiphany. You become the sage. So I've always loved this card, and we have a choice. Are we going to live by examples and live a great life that other people look up to us? And do we resonate a beautiful energy that people are drawn to? Or are we stuck in victimhood? Are we playing the blame game? A lot of people in life do that. It's my mother's fault that I can't do this, or it's my dad's fault, or, I was born into a poor family, so I don't have the same options. Wah, wah, wah. Victim muggle mentality. We all have challenges, and everybody on the planet, but what are you choosing? Are you choosing to see yourself as, I am God also? I am a sage. I am a wizard. I always use that Harry Potter imagery. Are you a wizard or are you a muggle? The Hierophant is Dumbledore. He's wise, he's loving, he's He's the counselor. And that, again, is what this card's about. And so I've always loved this card. In creating this card, if you look at my card, I have sort of this stately king, Merlin kind of figure, which is a little bit Dumbledore. I put a little Dumbledore in there with the beard and stuff. And then he's got the sun and the moon behind him. So he is divine masculine. He's got mastery of that. And he's also divine feminine, and he's got mastery of that. He is a master of abundance, unlimitedly abundant. He is a master of radiant health. He never is sick. He knows how to replenish his body. He is the teacher, so you see him with his book, and the writer. He's the Merlin energy, and I love that. For those who do follow Harry Potter, by the way, Merlin was actually in Slytherin, according to J.K. Rowling, and I find that kind of fascinating. And one thing I do love about Slytherins, even though they get a bad rap for being evil or Voldemort, but Slytherins go after their goals. Nobody's going to get in their way. And I have a lot of Slytherin in myself too. They make things happen. They're not waiting around. They're not followers. They're the doers, and so forth. So, I feel that, I channeled a little bit of Slytherin in this card. You'll see even in the frame all the kind of scrolls and things in it. The original, even though this went into black and white, but the jewels that are in this are Slytherin green. I chose emeralds because emeralds represent life force and so forth. And I feel this card has a lot of that. So be the spiritual teacher. And we all have that, no matter where you're starting from. You can be a person that inspires others. Choose wisely. Wizard or muggle. It's your choice.